everyone, welcome back to another video. Now, I've just done my breakdown of KSI and where I think he rates in relation to Jake as of now, past the Misfits 4 event. But there was another man on Saturday night that surprised us all. I'm talking, of course, about the one-shot king, the dancing Donny. It is Super Salt Papi. Now, this is a bit of a bittersweet one for me because I really like Salt Papi. I think he's a great guy in this space. I think he's a top contender and I think he's very dangerous. But, and this is where it becomes bittersweet, I think people are overestimating him slightly. I think that overnight he's gone from a top 5 contender to the top contender in the scene. And I think people are a little bit wrong about that. And I think people are getting a little too ahead of themselves with it all. He's great, don't get me wrong, but is he the top dog? Could he beat Jake or KSI? Let's go. Now, we saw on Saturday night him versus Josh Bruckner, and he looked very dominant in his fight. His third fight, the third fight that he's looked dominant in. His second fight, of course, against Andy Warski, where he absolutely steamrolled the kid. And in his first fight against Halal Ham. Not a great fight, but he showed levels in that fight as well. Now, here's what I don't understand. This guy is, without a question, the top level of this scene. In YouTuber boxing, he is at the top. Not the top, but he's at the top level. He is, to my mind, top 4. I'd say Jake, KSI, I would say Gib, and then I would say Salt Papi. Now, some people I've seen have been claiming that Salt Papi is now ahead of everyone. He's ahead of Jake, he's ahead of KSI, and some people are even saying that Gib versus Salt Papi doesn't even make sense because Gib doesn't belong in there with him. I think that is a wild statement. Wild. The kid, Salt Papi, has only had 3 fights, and if you think about the opponents he's faced, who are they really? Halal Ham, he went all 3 rounds with. Now he said he didn't want to knock him out because he didn't want to make people scared of him. That's not really true at all because he knocked Andy Warski out in 30 seconds in the next fight. So I don't believe him when he says he didn't want to knock him out. I think he probably couldn't. I think he went in there unfit. I think he didn't show his best self. I think Halal Ham could probably take his power in a way that people perhaps in the past have not before. Now Salt Papi has claimed that he's not this experienced fighter, but he's clear to see that he has some experience, and it's come out that he may have had fighting experience growing up around fighters in his family. And if we know things about Filipinos, it's that fighting culture is a big thing over there. Of course, Manny Pacquiao, the legend from the Philippines, top boxer, and you can tell that the people from there are inspired by that kind of culture. It's the same in Thailand, you've got Muay Thai, and you can tell that it's kind of the same in the Philippines, that boxing and fighting in general is a big thing and a big deal with culture in that country. So it's no surprise that Salt Papi looks experienced, but I think it's a bit of a reach to say that he's got no fight experience. So when he went in with his first fight against Halal Ham, I thought, okay, 2 big guys, I'm not expecting much. Salt Papi very quickly showed that he was levels above Halal Ham, and I thought, okay, this could be a very interesting and entertaining guy to see in the future. Little did I know that in a very short amount of time, he would be catapulted into the stratosphere of this space, known to everyone and feared by everyone. He went in against Andy Warski, and if Andy Warski is not good, that's obvious to see. Of course Andy Warski isn't good. I mean, you just had to look at the way he was holding his hands in that opening round. We knew what was going to happen. And Salt Papi came out loose, he came out fluid, he was throwing the jab from his hip, bang, and then he ends it with a double left hook, shuts his lights out, drops him to the canvas, head bobbling around like a fucking Einstein bobblehead in Night at the Museum 2. All together now, that's the way, we like it, But, like I say, it was Andy Warski. And Andy Warski, I mean, I'm no, you know, Mike Tyson, but I would hope to think that I could beat Andy Warski, and I think that I could probably knock him out within a round. Maybe not like that, but I certainly think I have the power and the technique to beat a man like that. So was that a good level to show us where Salt Papi is? Well, yes and no. It shows us that we should take him more seriously than an Andy Warski level opponent, but does it really tell us where he's at in terms of these upper echelon opponents? No, not really. Okay, so that brings us to Saturday night. Salt Papi versus Josh the Boogeyman Bruckner. I believe that's what he calls himself. Maybe it is, maybe it's the body bag, whatever. The body bag, the boogeyman, it doesn't matter, it's the same fucking thing at the end of the day. Now, coming into the fight, I thought Josh would give Salt Papi his biggest fight yet, his most toughest challenge to date. I thought his height, his size, and his MMA experience could translate well into the boxing space, especially since Salt Papi has not fought anyone around that technique level or with the physical advantage on him. Not to that degree. And when you saw Josh Bruckner coming out, I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, thought, okay, this is going to be a tough fight for Salt Papi. But did we overestimate Josh? I said, physiques
Got a cock on this guy.
do not win you fights. And we saw, no they don't. But was there a sign before that even? Well, let's cast our mind back. Who was the last guy Josh Bruckner fought? Chase Temperrr. How good did Chase Temperrr look in their fight? Well, he looked dog. And if we're honest, Josh in that fight didn't look levels above him. If I'm correct, he didn't even get him out of there. I don't even think he dropped him. So, Salt Papi stepped in there with a man who went the distance with Chase Temperrr. Chase. The guy who throws hands like your sister does in her dreams. That kind of Chase. The kind of punches you throw when you've got 20 kilogram weights tied to your hands. Those kind of punches. The guy couldn't throw accurate shots to save his life. So, when Salt Papi stepped in there with Josh, were we all misguided by the physique? Were we all caught watching him thinking this guy's going to be tough because of how he looks? I think so. Now, people might say, well, yeah, you say that, but a physique does have an indication of how prepared you are for a fight. Yes, you're correct, it does. But we've seen with Fuzi had an insane physique for Deji. And Deji steamrolled him, put it on him, flattened him. Fuzi couldn't overcome Deji's pressure and he crumbled. And we see in the very first opening moments of the first round, Salt Papi toy with Josh. Starts making him miss, starts showboating, showing him his name on his belt. And I think that got in Josh's head. I really think that played into Josh's mind. Josh already probably went into the fight knowing that Salt Papi could be dangerous, but then when Salt Papi started showboating on him, I think that made Josh even more hesitant and wary to get into a brawl with Salt Papi. And don't get me wrong, Salt Papi didn't look indestructible. Josh did catch him clean a couple times. That's the issue. Josh, for his height and his size, didn't do enough to slow Salt Papi. Salt Papi is a counter puncher.
Boom headshot! Boom headshot! Boom headshot!
We saw it in the first round. There was a hell of a load of inactivity from both fighters. They didn't even look like they wanted to engage with one another. Now in the second round, after Salt Papi had figured him out and realised Josh is not really going to give me resistance as I'm trying to come on the inside, he upped the level and he started to come on the inside, but he also laid back and waited for Josh to initiate the exchange so that he could come back and land those counter punches, exactly like he wanted to do. Why is that a problem? Well, for Salt Papi it wasn't, because he got exactly what he wanted, he knocked him out. But for Josh, getting into a counter punching exchange is the worst idea for a counter puncher, a heavy one at that. Josh was the taller, heavier guy. The entire fight, He should have been saying, stay away, stay away, stay away, come in, eat my shots. But he didn't. He didn't. He should have kept him at range the entire fight, stuck his jab in his face, and Salt Papi should not have been able to touch Josh back. That's the way it goes. But we didn't see it. And sure, Salt Papi's quick and he avoids the shots and he's a great counter puncher and he comes in and he comes out. But come on, Josh. Come on, Josh. With all those physical advantages, you should have done more. You should have done more. And that's why I think people are overlooking how good Salt Papi is. They're seeing the highlight reel and they're not watching the entire thing. He didn't look amazing in their fight. He got caught with a few shots. And Josh, I hate to say it, but Josh, for as big as he is, didn't look like he had that much power in his hands. If Salt Papi ate shots like he did with Josh against an opponent like a Jake or a KSI, is it a different fight? I think it probably is. I think it probably is. And another thing we haven't even spoken about is this is a man who in his entirety of the fights we've seen has gone, I believe, 5.5 rounds. 3 against Halal Ham, 1 against Andy Warski, and then 1 and a bit against Josh Bruckner. It's just, I think people are getting too caught up in the recency and the highlights of Salt Papi, and they're overlooking that a lot of other guys in this space are dangerous and have technique, have speed, have power, and if Salt Papi gets caught, which we've seen he can be, he's quick, but he's not quick enough to avoid every shot, and you don't need to land every shot to win. So do I think if Salt Papi comes up against a Jake or a KSI and they land a counter punch like they both like to do, I think we could see the end of Salt Papi. Now as for Gib, I think that is a complete disrespect on Gib's name to completely wipe him out of the running to face Salt Papi at all. It's wild to me. Gib is one of the top guys in this scene, and people, I've seen people say, well, he lost against Jake. Yes, he did, and it was disappointing, I agree. But at the time, we thought Gib was much better than he was, we thought Jake was much worse than he was, but we should have seen that the height and the size advantage of Jake gave him a massive, massive, massive leeway in the fight. So of course he should have won. He should have won in the way that he did, and fair play to him, he did win. And then we saw him go against Taylor Holder, and people said, including myself, I don't like Gib fighting another tall fighter. I don't like that because we saw him have problems getting on the inside and he improved. He shocked us all. He didn't get the win on the night, but he got the win in the end. It was overturned. But we saw Gib more controlled, more patient, calm, methodical, hands high, good defensive responsibility, coming in, landing, combos, good combos, downstairs, work up to the head, beautiful shots, and we saw the gas tank didn't take a hit either. And then, if that's not enough, I've seen people say, well, Gib got knocked down against Austin McBroom, so how can he take a punch from Salt Papi? Well, okay, yeah, he did. He got knocked down against Austin McBroom. He got knocked down against Austin McBroom. Okay, so what? So fucking what? Tyson Fury was knocked down against Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is a horrible boxer. A great fighter, but a horrible boxer. Does that mean that Tyson Fury's washed? That he's not a top guy in the scene? Of course not. Of course not. Everyone gets knocked down. Everyone, if you fight long enough, is going to get knocked down. And I think it's more of a testament to see Gib get up and do what he did to Austin. Like we saw, he knocked him down again and again and again and again and again. Brutal fashion. The man who ran the card. Gib is not afraid of these fighters. I've been seeing people are saying he's ducking them. I don't think Gib is a guy to duck people. I don't think he ducks people. Gib's one of the hungriest guys out there. Gib, from what I know, on a daily basis almost, is training in gyms, sparring. The guy is a beast. They don't call him the beast from the Middle East for nothing. That is what they call him. The 7-figure gibber, the beast from the Middle East. He is crazy. He's crazy and he's proved it time and time again. So I don't get where this whole Gib he couldn't step in there with Salt Papi because he'd get hurt. Oh, Gib would get knocked out in the first round. Well, we've seen that Gib can take a punch. We haven't seen that from Salt Papi. What happens if, like I say, a Jake or a KSI lands on Salt Papi's chin clean? Does he still talk that shit like he did against Josh Bruckner? I don't think so. And also, like I said, Salt Papi hasn't made it more than a few rounds. 3 rounds is the furthest he's ever gone in a 3-round fight. What happens against a KSI, a Gib, a Jake, where the fight's 6+ rounds, 8 rounds? And we've seen Gib maintains his power throughout the rounds. He knocked Austin out in the 5th. We saw Jake can maintain his power throughout the fight. He knocked Anderson Silva down in their, I believe it was the 8th round. It was either the 6th or the 8th round. But either way, we've seen both of those guys can hold more power in their hands than Salt Papi at that later stage in a fight, because Salt Papi's never been there. And so, as good as Salt Papi is, and people might think that I'm shitting on Salt Papi, believe me, I love the kid. I wish him nothing but the best. He is, like I say, one of the best in this scene. But as good as he is, I just haven't seen him tested enough against upper echelon opponents. And that's not to say that everyone KSI, Jake, or Gib has fought has been great upper echelon opponents. No. But I have seen him challenged. I've seen him take a punch, I've seen him give a punch, I've seen him go to the later stages of a fight. I've seen a lot of tests of their character and they've overcome it. Salt Papi so far has not been tested. He really hasn't. And I think in his next fight he needs to up the levels to a big, dangerous fighter. Not just someone who looks dangerous, someone that we have seen to be dangerous. Someone maybe like, I don't know, a Slim. I wasn't very impressed with Slim versus Zanetti, but a Slim, we know Slim can and does have knockout power. I haven't seen Josh Bruckner knock anyone out. Now I could be wrong and people could reply to me saying, Josh Bruckner's got 100 knockouts. I'd be very surprised if he does, but if they do, then I'd take it back. But I think that when he comes up against someone who can push the pace, isn't afraid to get into these exchanges, isn't put off by this showboating, isn't intimidated, trusts their gas tank to push the pace on Salt Papi, whereas Salt Papi was pushing the pace on Josh Bruckner. That's another thing. Josh Bruckner, being the bigger guy, should have been the aggressor. He should have been the aggressor. Pushing Salt Papi back. Salt Papi, the counter-puncher, should be stepping back, waiting to land that punch. But we didn't see it. We didn't really see it. Both of them were quite happy to trade on the inside. And I think that worked out way better for Salt Papi than it did Josh Bruckner. But yeah, those are a few reasons that I think maybe people are getting a bit too overzealous with the ability of Salt Papi. I'm seeing people say he should be pro. I'm seeing Eddie Hearn saying he'd like to make him pro. Come on now. He's good. But until I see him face someone I know to be credible in this scene, he is going to be stuck at that top 5, top 4 level, and he won't progress beyond that until I've seen him in an actual dogfight. Now it could be that he never gets into one because he's better than everyone, and if that's the case and he goes on to beat everyone in the scene and no one comes close to touching him, I'll have to take my hat off and say he's number 1. But I think that a lot of people in this scene can give him trouble, and until I see him in trouble and how he overcomes that, like we've seen from pretty much everyone in that list beforehand. Jake, we've seen him overcome Tyron Woodley 1, where he got very close to being knocked out in that fight. We've seen KSI come back from that 4th round knockdown against Logan Paul and put it on him and win by decision. And then we've seen Gib come back from that 1st round knockdown from Austin McBroom and absolutely sweep the floor with him, pardon the pun. So yes, until I see that from Salt Papi, or unless he goes and stomps on every single person in the space, he's still going to be stuck at that top 4 position for me. That's not to say that he's bad. Top 4 in a space of, what, 30 plus fighters is still pretty impressive. I just think that when people say he is the guy to beat now. They need to be a little bit careful about who they're overlooking and what they're judging Salt Papi on, because he is skilled. He is a hard puncher, he's quick, he's knowledgeable, his footwork, his distance, all great, all great. But until I see it against a top level prospect in this scene, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Salt Papi's a top level prospect in actual boxing, I'm saying in this scene. Until I see that against him, I can't judge him above anybody else that I've put before him in the list, because I've seen them challenged and I've seen them overcome it, and I've seen their progression from where they started to where they are now. I'm very interested to see where Salt Papi goes from here, who he fights next and how he looks in his next fight. I wish him all the best. I'll always be cheering for Salt Papi, but I think that some of you just need to take a deep breath, calm down, and just let that recency bias just ease off a little. Salt Papi is great. He is a top contender, but he is not the top contender. Don't get it twisted, okay? Right, that's going to be it from me, guys. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please leave a like, please subscribe if you really want to, and comment down below if there's anything else you'd like to see from me. The last few months, well, I've only been doing this for 1.5 months, but the last few weeks, I should say, have been crazy in terms of engagement and, you know, response on my channel. I've been getting a lot of nice feedback from people, I've been getting a lot of views, I've been getting subscribers, and honestly, from the bottom of my heart, it means the absolute world to me. I really enjoy making these videos, and it means even more when I see that people enjoy them in return. So thank you guys, and if anybody has watched this far, then leave a pumpkin emoji in the comments. Yeah, until next time guys, I'll see you later.